Okay, here we go. Um, to be widely skilled, a jack of all trades, a polymath is a person with a wide range of knowledge and skills. These skills accrued over a lifetime, an undoubtedly interesting lifetime at that. A life filled with turbulence and thrill, to be well versed in many pursuits, acting, fighting, and rocking. Today I will be discussing a tribute to Christopher Lee, a well-lived man. Lee played some of the greatest villains in film, was a flight lieutenant in the Royal Air Force, and paved way with his heavy metal band later in life. Lee followed many pursuits in life and followed them with passion and vigor. Perhaps the most well-known aspect of Christopher Lee's life is that he was a famous actor. In an article discussing Christopher Lee by Richard Pollardi and edited by the researchers at Encyclopedia Britannica, they talked about Lee's life and film experience. First, with his big break as Frankenstein's monster in The Curse of Frankenstein, 1957, and continuing his trend of playing horror characters, playing his most well-known role as Dracula in The Horrors of Dracula in 1958, and then later in life, playing Saruman in the Lord of the Rings trilogy and Count Dooku in the Star Wars franchise. In addition to being a famous actor, Lee was also a hero for the Allies in World War II. It is said in the aforementioned article that, son of a British Army officer, Lee chose in his early life to follow in his father's tracks. Lee joined the Royal Air Force in 1941, seeing through Germany invading the Soviet Union, Pearl Harbor, the Battle of Stalingrad, the liberation of Paris, all the way through to the end of World War II. By the time he left the Royal Air Force, Lee had attained the rank of flight lieutenant. Finally, if a life not well lived enough, in his later years, Christopher Lee started a heavy metal band and influenced the entire genre. Timothy Monger, a writer for AllMusic, the company that writes band biographies for Spotify, on the official Christopher Lee Spotify page tracks the progression of Lee's band. Christopher Lee's band began with an Italian power metal group called Rhapsody of Fire approaching him to record a duet regarding Lee's role as Saruman in Lord of the Rings. Lee, in his earlier life, had loved opera and fantasy, so he immediately agreed. In that same time frame, Lee discovered his love for the metal genre and singing and performing in that capacity, and started a new career as a fantasy metal singer. Lee soon released his solo metal debut album, arriving in 2010 with Charlemagne by Sword and Cross. This album won Christopher Lee the Spirit of Metal Award presented by Black Sabbath. Lee continued to release more music over the years, with one of Lee's songs reaching number 18 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart, making 91-year-old Lee the oldest living performer to ever enter the music charts. Lee continued making heavy metal music until his passing. Sadly, Lee did pass away in June of 2015 at the age of 93, marking the end of a fascinating man who did many things very well in his life. This is a man who did it all. An amazing and often horrific actor, a hero for democracy, a musical legend, and much more. I know that I myself aspire to be more like Lee, a man who lived 1,000 lives just in one. To recap, Lee was a hero for the Allies in World War II. Later in life, established a heavy metal band and was the oldest living performer to ever make the top 100 charts. And Lee was a very famous actor, playing a number of horrific roles. And I'd like to encourage all of you to try to do something similar. Not to ever be anything Lee ever was, but to be undefinable, to live every single aspect of your life, and to find deep interest in many different subjects. Thank you. Okay. Um, I'm gonna